The Local Show, sponsored by Victory in Motion, home of knee repair, not knee replacement, on News Radio 570 WSYR, on 106.9 FM, and live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. The Local Show features in-depth conversation with business owners, employees, and influential business leaders throughout Central New York, exploring their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in our growing community. The Local Show is produced locally by Zoe Advertising. Now your hosts, Tom and Steve.
We're back into the Local Show. Thank you for tagging along with us, and hope we're adding to your loveliness of the weekend.
I'm still giddy from the kangaroo, Tom.
Yes, you're giddy, huh?
I don't know. It's that wild animal park. I was out there. It's so much fun.
A lot of fun. It's hard to believe something like that exists just around the corner right in Chenango.
I know.
All right. Well, Lisa Sonneborn is with us right now. She's the president of Clinical Trial Services at Ichor Life Sciences. How are you, Lisa?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Lisa, are you from Syracuse? Are you originally from here?
Born and raised Syracuse.
Yeah. What side of town?
University. So I'm a university girl.
Oh, okay.
Berry Park's my stomping grounds, Westcott Street.
Yeah.
Oh,
So did you go to JD or?
So I actually went to Manly's Pebble Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And then went to undergrad at Syracuse.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And when I went to do my master's, that's when I transitioned down to Florida, got my master's in mental health and psychology and counseling.
And you came back?
And then I came back, and then I'm back there, so I go back and forth actually very frequently.
What part of Florida?
No one's ever heard of it. It's called Claremont.
Claremont. Never heard of it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. It's famous in Central Florida because it's the only, Central Florida is really flat, and it's the only area with any hills.
Oh, goodness.
So it's really popular for cyclists, which is lovely for those who are in shape, but for the rest of us,
For real people.
it's unfortunate because you're always stuck behind groups of 50 or 60 cyclers on the road.
Yeah.
So I'm real good at honking the horn and stuff.
So you came back. So that's an interesting degree program. So you're. I'm not sure how that jives with what you do right now.
I went to undergrad for business finance and ended up working at Xerox for a period of time, only to find out that I actually hate business finance because I was in a cubicle all day.
Yeah.
And you guys will soon find out I'm very chatty. So I went back to
good.
school for mental health and psychology and actually became a licensed therapist for a period of time.
Then you had to learn to listen, right, when they were talking.
Still working on those skills. But actually, it was with that degree that I ended up getting into research. So my area of specialty is what's called psychometric ratings. Really fancy word for specialized testing for especially people with Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
So I got pulled into clinical trials because when people are being evaluated scientifically to see if a medication is helping them, you have to have folks with certain degrees to evaluate them as they participate in research to see if they're doing better, doing worse, staying the same. So that's kind of how I first got my foot into the door in clinical research well over a decade ago.
So you are working with people that have some kind of dementia?
Yes.
Or is there people like Tom and I that we don't think we have dementia, but get to the age where we walk up the hall and I'm not quite sure why we walked up the hall.
So when I first started, it was very much people diagnosed with some form of cognitive decline, whether it was something mild or more severe. But as science has progressed and as our ability to detect it earlier and earlier has progressed, now our kind of evaluation of people and treatments for these diseases includes not just those who actively have symptoms, but also those who we can identify have the start of the disease in their brain, but don't have symptoms yet.
Is that heredity?
It's a combination. So there are certain genes that are linked to Alzheimer's disease and can increase your risk, but there's definitely also other medical conditions that increase your risk, environmental conditions. So I would say it's a combination of all of them, and it's a little bit of a different balance for every person. So if you've got the genes, yes, your risk is higher. If you don't, but you don't live a healthy lifestyle, yes, your risk is higher. So there's lots of kind of considerations there.
I heard that just recently you can take a blood test and find out if you are.
Absolutely.
I'd be scared. Am I wrong?
No,
it's like taking the cancer test.
We got to
too.
unpack this because I think this is an important one. This is something that I think a lot of people don't understand when these headlines come out. What was just approved by the FDA is called p-tau217, and it's what's called a blood-based biomarker. And that blood-based biomarker is effective quite so at identifying something called amyloid in the brain, which is really kind of that initial pathology that we look for, that initial kind of sign of the disease process. But it really is intended for people who already have cognitive symptoms to further confirm.
I see.
Okay, so it's not just like, hey, I'm 55 and my mom had it at some point. I want to go get the p-tau217 test.
So that's not what it is. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
It's not. And it is being evaluated, as are many other assessments for that purpose. One of which is actually validated in many ways for this. Amyloid PET scans are still kind of what we think of as the gold standard. So an actual PET scan that can not only identify if you have this pathology, but how much of it you have and where you have it in your brain. And those have been used to identify people who don't have cognitive issues, but basically have the start of the disease
Why would
process.
someone want to participate?
So in getting a biomarker or in research in general?
Yes, to both of those.
Yeah, and before you answer that, I wanted to know. That's a great question, Steve. The way you asked it, but I guess I was more concerned about the side effects. You know,
of getting a biomarker test?
A clinical trial. Like if you're participating in a clinical trial, couldn't there be risks that associated?
So let's unpack this. Yeah. So we focus on Alzheimer's disease. It's a disease with no cure. It is a terminal disease. So like many people who are facing terminal diseases with no treatment that is available to cure what's coming, they are eager to find something that could help.
Okay.
And oftentimes what they are eager for is not just something that may help them, because they do have to understand and are made aware of both the benefits or potential benefits and potential risks. But I would say more than half the people who participate in Alzheimer's studies with us and their families are eager to do something because they know that the generations of their families to follow may have increased risk because this loved one has.
So it's the cause.
It's a huge piece of the cause. It takes decades to make breakthroughs in research, and it takes thousands of people raising their hand and basically participating. Every single medication you've ever taken, even if it's over the counter, ibuprofen, people went into clinics, thousands of them, to be able to try that out to make sure that it was effective and safe for that indication.
If I was part of an A/B testing, I want to be the one that gets the med, not the placebo.
Yeah,
you have to understand there's a lot of complexities to studies. Some of them are double-blind, meaning you don't know what you get. But one of the nice things about clinical trials, many of them, especially if they're what we call disease modifying, meaning they might impact and actually change this disease for you. For people who participate in that double-blind period for, maybe a year, for example, they often will create something called an open-label extension, meaning if you took the time and volunteered in this, and you finish that volunteer period, we're going to make the drug available to you while we go through that process of becoming commercially available.
So you are obviously passionate about helping people in this.
Absolutely.
Can people reach out to you, or do you need to reach out to them? How does it happen?
Lots of different ways to contact. So we get referrals from providers. There's definitely groups in the area where the doctors know what we're doing, and since they don't have necessarily these options, they can always tell them to reach out to us. People can reach directly out at ichorclinic.com. Ichor Clinic, which is ICHOR clinic.com. They can also call directly, so the 315-904-5004, and request basically a consultation. We work with those families and their doctors. So oftentimes they'll say, hey, I want to share the information. Before I decide to do this, I want to talk to my primary.
I love the hope that you're breathing into the conversation. So thank you for joining us today, Lisa.
Of course, thank you.